Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm joined by my new coach, Aaron Casely, known as the Mofo Body Mechanic. We're going to talk about my new programming and our plans for 2025. Where did Mofo come from? Because a lot of people know that as I quote,
Yeah.
Where did that name come from? And let's tell us about how we started together. And also, were you excited or nervous to be joining me in my team? So yeah, let's start with where did Mofo come from first?
So let's go back to the 1980s, because I'm an old.
I wasn't born then, but yeah.
Exactly. I've been involved in sport pretty much all my life. Like you, I had probably ADHD, undiagnosed ADHD as a kid, obviously with your autism and stuff. Sport was my escape. That was the thing that kind of kept me off the streets and kept me out of trouble. So by the time I was 15, I was a national cycling champion, endurance cycling champion. I'd always lifted weights, like from about the age of 11. Went to Argos and bought myself a York dumbbell and barbell sand-filled kit with a leg extension, and started lifting. And lifting is something that's always been with me, like from 13 years of age. I f***ed around at school, didn't do very well at school, because it doesn't really cater for people like us.
100%.
And I left school with about 4 GCSEs. There were O-levels back in those days. I was even older than you. GCSEs didn't exist. And I worked for a short period of time. I was trying to become a professional cyclist. Had a bad crash, couldn't continue cycling because of the accident. And I was like, what do I do now? Got no qualifications, got no sort of plan B. And my mate had just joined the Air Force. He says, why don't you join the Air Force? I was like, what has? That had never been part of my plan to join the military. Although some people will tell you that the Air Force isn't part of the military. The Navy and the Army will tell you that. And so I joined up. I was a PTI for 6 years. My last post was Headley Court, which is the Tri-Service Rehabilitation Centre. And it was there I started to work with the strength and conditioning knowledge that I'd got from working as a PTI. I started working with people with injuries, but using the same protocols as I was using with people to get improved performance. I was using it to rehab people. So that sparked my interest in, I suppose, rehab and treating injuries. I moved to London when I left the Air Force. I went to university in London because that was where the best universities were. So like Dick Whittington, I packed my little rucksack and off I went. I didn't have a cat, but went to London, did my degree, and then pretty much ever since I worked for 5 years with a professional cycling team in Europe. I worked for a year in America with a motor racing team that were doing the Le Mans series. I worked at the 24-hour Le Mans, which was an incredible experience. Both cars went out with crashes. So it was and I went out in a 2-seater Le Mans car, and I've never been so frightened in all my life. It was a Venezuelan female driver, and she was diffing it into these corners. And I was sitting there going,
Nerves and adrenaline on one.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I then had some kids, and I didn't have some kids. My wife had some kids, and I took up some lecturing so that my hours were a bit more like regular. I lectured for about 15 years in sports and exercise therapy, physiotherapy, did a master's in exercise physiology, and published a few papers. And I think part of what you have to do as part of your teaching role is be research up to date. So I published about 4 papers in that time. And then as the kids got older, my first love is treating and helping people. So I went back into clinical practice, and that's what I've done pretty much ever since. We knew each other, or we met through a mutual friend of ours, Dr. Dean St. Mart. So I worked with Dr. Dean in 2022 to fix a shoulder injury, and then I prepped him for that season. And we pretty much revolutionised his training. He's a very typical bodybuilder. So he comes from that background where every set's to failure, 5 exercises for chest, 5 exercises for back, the usual stuff. And I've never understood that whole kind of that ethos around training. If you've as soon as you've stimulated the muscle, whether that's with 1 set or 5 sets, I don't understand what doing multiple sets and multiple exercises doing, other than causing more tissue damage. And the more tissue damage we cause, the harder it is to recover. And then you've got another training session the next day, and you've got another training session the next day. So he trained 4 days a week. He'd spent 11 years trying to win PCA Mr. Ireland unsuccessfully. And the year we worked together, he was in the best condition. He won PCA Mr. Ireland, and he said at 2 weeks out, I feel like I'm cheating now. I was like, why do you feel like you're cheating? He said, because this is so easy. We didn't go above 2 reps in reserve. We prioritised recovery above training. So he worked as hard on his days off, making sure he was recovering optimally as he did during his training sessions. And that's obviously where my relationship with Dean came from. And then, you know, Dean recommends good people. You know, Dean obviously put me in touch with you. We had our initial consultation, which I think is unusual for a lot of people. When I say to people I do online consultations, they go, how can you diagnose an injury when you don't see me? As soon as we started talking, I told you what your problem was. You know, you've got a disc issue and some nerve root compression. And you'd had the usual stories from the people you'd seen. It was weak glutes, it was a weak core. And back pain it's not that simple. You know, and I think particularly with the loads that you guys are having to lift now, I think that's where we started from. And I think our neurodiversity, I think we got off to a good start. I think I'm very much of a, if my amygdala is triggered by you and I don't get that good feeling, that good gut feeling, it's like, I don't want to work with you.
100%.
And I think you're probably very much the same. You have to get that, you trust your gut, you rely a lot on our gut feeling. And I came away from that call. My amygdala wasn't alarmed. So that's where we started from. And this was probably at a time where, what were we, 4 weeks out from Rogue?
4 weeks out from,
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, on my side as well, it's a big risk because obviously Dan, for all my career, I know Dan's my mate, we were coaching, but I think, you know, Dan's a really good strength coach, but you don't have that background of what you have. You just explained it to a T there, so I'm not going to go into it and try and say big words because I lift weights. But anyway, I needed someone with this injury. You know, we were going to competitions like Giants Las Vegas and just pulling out of competitions, coming last, coming second last, where I should be coming first, top 3 all the time. So, yeah, and then put you on board, big risk because we had 4 weeks to change everything. Obviously, I didn't, you know, my training was different, everything was different. But I was on the fence 50-50, I was nervous, but when I seen the training start coming in, the more aerobic fitness, you know, a lot of stuff that's really good for recovery. Obviously not putting any pressure or any load through my hamstring and glute was unbelievable as well. And then obviously went to Rogue, very good performance there, and yeah, it was unreal. But then, well, obviously we touched on the injury, but let's talk about the Rogue Invitational. How do you think the Rogue went? And from my eyes, I think it went better than I could think. Obviously, having that mindset from Vegas 4 weeks before, thinking I wasn't wanting to do it, saying that there was Giants Glasgow as well.
Well, we pulled you out of that, didn't we?
I was going to pull out a Rogue, but for me, you know, Rogue's a good payday no matter what you finish. It was my last competition of the year, so I knew that I could batter my body and recover. So obviously, having you on board, we were doing a lot, like I said, more aerobic stuff, a lot more rep stuff, and didn't really touch any max deadlifting, didn't really touch too much max stuff. It was just getting fit and keep my strength stayed at that. And I lost a bit of weight as well, but looked and felt very much better.
I think you had, the week before Rogue, you had abs on the videos you sent me.
Abs aren't meant to make you win trophies, but they seem to be helping me to shout. But yeah, I mean,
didn't do Mariusz Pudzianowski much harm, did they?
The good thing, I think, the biggest thing that was different in the training, you know, it's the warm-ups. Obviously, when I used to train with Dan, and in the past, I just used to, if it was deadlifts, go in and do the bar and just not have a heart rate, not have the heart rate, not have that sweat on, not have the proper kind of, you know, muscles warmed up, not have them stimulated so they're all working and stuff. And that's, you know, I'm spending 20 to 30 minutes now every session, well, pre-Rogue, you know, on the assault bike, warming everything up, stretching and doing all the right stuff to stimulate the muscles to switch them on. And that was the biggest thing for me, because when I went into all the other kind of events, when I went into the gym to do that short exercises, felt so much better, felt so much, it's like just, I didn't have to, I felt like I was actually warmed up. I didn't have to feel like I was like just having to do 10, 11 sets of deadlift to get one, which was so good. So that's a massive part for me. And then obviously, you know, training's easy, but it's always how you perform in the gym for me. Like when you have a new coach and you do this, do that, you can do whatever you want in the gym. But it was when I did that performance at Rogue, especially the conditioning events. I thought like the farmers and log, except from the beeper, like I felt really good in that. The arm over arm one, all that kind of stuff. And
the arm over arm you won, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. So even the stones, getting that back with this injury, not really doing much of that. The deadlift, our goal was to pull 400. We did it. So in that 4 weeks time, I think second place. I don't think you can beat Mitchell Hooper unless you're 100%, and that's what we plan to be next year. So take away Mitchell Hooper, I think second place is the best possible.
I mean, I went into Rogue knowing that we could podium if we got the best out of you.
Yeah.
I think that when we talked the first time, I think the thing I took away most from our conversation was how much Vegas and previous competitions had affected your mental state. Like, you're very much, if you're in it, you're in it. If you're not, you're not bothered. And I think that's why, the deadlift didn't move at Vegas, and that's why the car didn't move. I think I think it takes a neurodiverse person to know a neurodiverse person. And I think the thing that I took away most from you on that conversation wasn't so much the injury, it was just the fact that you'd lost your mojo, or your mofo in this particular instance. And the warm-ups, I think this is it's massive. Like, if we think about the hip joints as a joint, the hip joint and the shoulder joint are very much the same. These are the axes of rotation for your upper body and your lower body. Now, the hip's more stable because it's got a deeper socket. So you need to make sure before you're deadlifting or squatting that you can access those ranges of movement in a frontal plane, in a transverse plane, in a sagittal plane. And by going in and just deadlifting, and potentially you're stiff from driving or stiff from being in the office or whatever it is you've been doing before, you then end up shifting your weight onto one side, and there goes your injury.
Exactly.
So, and the shoulder's the same as the hip, but it's less stable. So if you notice in your shoulder workouts, your warm-ups in your shoulder, you're not working on mobility. We improve the mobility of your thoracic spine because that's the nucleus of your shoulder. But then it's about activating your scapula, activating the rotator cuff, because those muscles are much more important for shoulder stability. So the hip's more stable and less mobile, the shoulder's more mobile but less stable, and your warm-up has to reflect those things. So before you press, you've got to make sure everything's
that's right. We're doing a lot of activation stuff, like you said, the IOIT for the shoulders. The straight arm pull downs for the lats and stuff. It's a workout in itself, but you feel when you're going into pressing, you're much warmer. Less risk of injury, and you're going to get that 100% in the gym. So
and I think that's your event stuff. When I've supported a lot of events over the years, SCL and various Giants, various other places. And it always concerns me when you go from sat on a chair straight into warming up for a deadlift or warming up for whatever.
It should be common sense, really, shouldn't it, at the end of the day?
Well, it's like if you think you do that in the gym, but then for a comp where potentially you're going to be PBing in most of the lifts, there's no specific warm-ups that take place. So when we did that, Rogue was an interesting one because obviously it was the first time we'd met.
Face to face. I think that's the most impressive thing as well. All we done was online back and forth, so to actually meet face to face and kind of just gel like we did. It kind of was just like clockwork for us, and that's a good thing as well. And Rogue's one of the biggest comps to do it at as well, so it only means there's improvements and there's going to be bigger and better things to come as well, which is a very, very.
And I think backstage for me, Rogue was about learning about you. It was how do you need me to be? Because ultimately I'm there to either fire you up if you're not fired up enough, or to sit back and step back. Because at that point it's not about technical details. It's not about I might have to
getting the job done.
It's about getting the job done. So if you're not aroused enough, if you're not switched on enough, my job is to switch you on. If you're too switched on, and I think learning how you display yourself in comp was what I took away from Rogue. That was the biggest learning for me.
Because it's not even just training, even like the away from like the hot and cold as well. Like when you first taught, you said I'll do cold in the morning, and
which your brother had been telling you to do for like years.
And I just always thought, obviously doing hot and cold contrast, it would help sleep, but obviously cold increases endorphins. Dopamine. Yeah, so obviously me being autistic, I don't have as much. So it obviously makes sense now that I did it. I was like, I'm just going to listen to Adam and just do it. But doing that every single session up to Rogue, and then doing the hot at night was unbelievable. That's one of the biggest differences as well. Like, post rogue, I've not really done it much because I've been on holiday.
Have you missed it?
Yeah, 100%. I never, when I didn't do code at night, I didn't really miss it because I was like so and so. But when I'm a guy for feeling, so if I do something and I feel it works and then it takes away from me, I'm like, this is the worst thing ever. So I'm waking up now, instead of 6 and 7 o'clock, I'm waking up like 7, 8, all groggy, wanting to go in the cold. But yeah, so that was unbelievable. That's one thing I was like, damn, he's got me this one. I'm actually listening to someone, it works. But listen to your brother, listen to that, it's all right. He's an athlete, he's not a coach, but I like to listen to someone that actually
and I think it's always
has a kind of backing up as well, because all it says is do code, it makes you happy. Like,
it's like we never listen to our friends and families. Your wife tells you to do something, you're like, yeah, whatever. And then your coach tells you to do exactly the same thing, and it's like, oh, Aaron said this. Sinead's going, yeah, I told you that weeks ago.
No, but yeah, that was, again, that the hot and cold, different times, the warm up, and then even the volume of what we were doing in the gym. Like for example, the log, we were doing like 8 reps before we were even doing the runs.
Yeah.
And I think again that's really important, because I was going into the log then fatigued, so I was like obviously doing 8 reps fresh, 2 or 3 sets of that, then going into the event. So it was kind of like what you were doing a strongman event. The log wasn't first, so all that kind of stuff was it was unbelievable. And like I said, I hadn't had any bad sessions, and it was just being motivated to train again is a big thing as well for me.
Yeah, so. And like I say, I think in a comp prep, we had a very short comp prep. The beauty of the Arnold's next year is we've got 12, 14 weeks.
Yeah, so obviously talking about 2025, obviously we've kind of touched about, in my eyes, what's improved the most is probably the conditioning, the cardiovascular, my body change. I think I was holding a lot of bloat pre-Vegas, and kind of just, the diet was falling off and I wasn't very happy. So then to get that bloat stripped away, to get the cardiovascular, and I think that's the biggest thing that improved. My strength is always going to be there, but it's also maximising the strength by doing the cardio, getting a bigger cardiovascular system, and that's one of the biggest my biggest improvement, I think, going into the role. What do we improve next? That is then talking about 2025. Obviously, rogue's done. I am not doing Britain's Strongest Man, for anybody that doesn't know. I'm going to say it again, I am not doing Britain's Strongest Man. Britain's Strongest Man's in February the 1st this year. I've got holidays and want to enjoy my time, so I'm going to be doing Arnold's in March. Again as well, Arnold's is the first competition back for every other athlete, so like the half hours, the hooper, Bobby Thompson, whoever's doing it, none of them will have done a competition. So for me to be 100% of that, I need to go in fresh.
Yeah.
And that's what the plan is. March is doing Arnold Classic. So yeah, I mean, for you, 2025, what's your plan going into that? How do you think we're going to probably program that? How do you think we're going to, improve? I think for me, the biggest thing, obviously, the minute is the deadlift. I think I need to get my deadlift obviously back up to 1,000 pound plus to be
430, 440,
especially in raw competitions, to even be winning these competitions. I think everything else are easy fixes.
Isn't it? Don't you find it terrifying that 400 now is like
warm up?
It's a 7th place in a competition,
and that's the frustrating thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the 4-minute mile. When Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile,
now everybody,
and now everybody's like amateur runners are breaking the 4.
That's what that's just been realistic, because obviously, like you look at Mitchell Hoopers, you look at the half-hour Beyonce, they're pulling 460, 470, 400.
Yeah.
There's too big a gap in that first or second event, and you're always playing for second, third.
And you can't afford to be out of the top 3 in any event now.
Especially in a suit, it's fine because I can protect this, but now with the raw, Arnold's, there's going to be some grip things. I can improve all that easily, that comes, but I think it's the deadlift that's the biggest. Well, I wouldn't say because of the injury, because of the mental kind of thing with it all, and that is the biggest thing to improve. So,
and I think deadlift is a technical event as well. So I think some of the things that we changed on your deadlift in the weeks leading up to road were the way that you were using your legs,
we just
grip on the bar.
I think we just keep doing it. I think like you said, the wee things we've done for the 3 or 4 weeks, leg press through the floor, how to grip the bar, take tension out of it, all that just needs to, we've got, like you said, 12 weeks to then get that perfect, and hopefully. And
I think now I've seen you in action, actually in a competition, I can look at you from a biomechanical perspective. Like you've actually got quite a short torso in comparison to your leg length. So we're going to play around with the bar position in your deadlift and go through the deadlift technique stuff, because I think we can get your knees further over the bar by setting the bar up over your toe box, which gives you more ability to be able to push your legs through, to drive your legs through.
So all these wee things that I'm still learning. Even like leg stance as well could be a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I used to be a wide deadlift.
I'd have you pulling sumo if I could.
I used to be wide, then I went in, and you see all different people, like Haffer Johnson pulls it narrow, and then Brian Shaw used to pull it wide. So there's all these different things that work. But like I said, once it clicks, it'll never go away again. But it's just getting confidence again. And
I think it's working out what works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Not works for
other people. You don't look at other people. Yeah. That's what I used to be about. But like, yeah, we go into 2025. The biggest goal for the first part of the year is obviously March, and then World Show. Man, Arnold's and Worlds are the two big comps. So it's just about prepping good for that, and hopefully big things are coming. But I mean, yeah, the training's nothing really different. It's just, I think what we're going to be doing different is the warming up, the mobility before it all. And
training is going to be, I'm trying to keep you at the moment, so you're used to having an off season.
We're used to being a bodybuilder now, aren't we?
Well, no, and that's cool. I want you to be a bodybuilder. So we're in a block of hypertrophy because this is a time where I think we have to let the injuries from the accumulated effects of the season heal.
Yeah.
I think we have to freshen you up mentally because we're going to go into a hard prep come January.
Yeah.
And I think what better, you like training, you love training, like me. Even if I'm not competing, I still train because I love training. You know, the gym is your tribe, and I think keeping you in the gym, doing some hypertrophy, bodybuilding style stuff is what we've done through this block. Barbados, you're going to still be training.
Yeah.
You're still finding the gym. I'm messaging Sinead to tell her, let him have an hour and a half in the morning to go and train. So that when we come back in January, we're not starting from scratch. You've got a good base level of strength. You maintain a bit of condition.
I think that's important because obviously in the off seasons before I've trained 1 or 2 times a week and just felt, there's not a comp till February. But this time if I keep consistent, like you said, high reps, your body just goes back into it naturally.
You're an event here. You know, I think the difference now between strongman and strongman of past, you're a professional athlete. You know, you're like your idols at Rangers or whoever it is.
You have to keep.
Your job is to train.
The off seasons the season's usually won or lost as well. If you're not doing any work, and like it's like an off season in football, isn't it? Like if you don't do any extra work, you're not gonna.
Do you think Mitch is sat on the beach in Barbados right at this minute in time?
No, but
no,
I will be. Then I'll go win the trip.
Yeah, listen, because you're going to carry on. We're going to still factor in some training time.
I know. See, we back the 17th of December is when I'm back, and that's when it all kick off. And
so from that hypertrophy block, we then move into a strength block. So then we're going to start to build some strength, and that's when we're going to build that deadlift back. And then from your strength block, we'll move into comp prep, and we'll peak for the.
Hopefully, we find out the Arnold events as well ASAP, and then we can get everything.
Yeah, when are they released?
Local, usually around Christmas time. So basically, hopefully, when I come back from Barbados, everything will be planned out and will be ready. But we won't talk too far into 2025. But the first 2 comps for years will be Arnold's and Worlds. Worlds we don't need to talk about right now because it's May, June time and that'll happen. But Arnold's is the big one. We're going to go forward in it, and we're going to get my first ever Arnold victory, aren't we?
We are.
Yes, we are.
If you do the work I program.
Yes, I do the work. That's it. And once I know things work, like the Hazard Rogue, I'm 100% into it. Like just like the diet with Nathan, you know, we always changing things. If the food doesn't work, I'll go, look, this doesn't work for me. This isn't working for blah blah blah. We always change it. He's always open to my changes because at the end of the day, it's my body. I know it more than anyone. So it's always you have to get that balance.
You've dropped some weight, haven't you, over the last few weeks?
Jeez, oh man, I'm Mr.
Wasting weight.
2025. I think the weight I dropped is just unwanted body fat and unwanted water weight. And I think, you know, I look better, I feel better, and feel much more energized, feel more fit, and that's all you need to. You know? Gradually now for Arnold's, obviously it's a heavy comp, so we'll be putting maybe 5 or 6k good weight back on to
I was going to say that's going to be good weight though, isn't it? We're not just carrying, it's not
Haribo's or anything. I've stopped the sweets now, guys, as well, so I need pick and mixes, but I'm not allowed them. So anyway,
there's a really good pick and mix shop up the road. I'll take you there.
I won't be going there. So we're going to go and train, and thank you for coming on, Aaron. Thank you for sharing everything.
My pleasure.
This is Aaron. This is the Mofo Body Mechanics coach. He is my coach now for the future. We're going to go to Leeds. We're going to go on some biceps, and maybe we'll be up in Invergordon for the next one. Thank you for watching. Stay spicy.